Hi, in this video we're going to talk about how to use EFT tapping when you're experiencing insomnia and you're having a hard time getting to sleep. And we're going to also talk about the case where you went to sleep no problem, but then you woke up in the middle of the night and then you're having a hard time getting back to sleep. Now my name is Stefan Gonick. I'm an expert EFT practitioner, trainer, and soulmate attraction mentor from EFTalive.com. Okay, so if we're having a hard time going to sleep, there could be a couple different things that are going on. The first one we're going to talk about is the situation when we're feeling upset or agitated emotionally about something that is going on either in our life in general or just something that happened that day. If that's going on for you, then of course it's going to be hard to go to sleep, right? Because you're kind of agitated or worked up. So you're going to want to tap on that first. Get in touch with what it is and tap on it. So for instance, let's say I was driving home from work and I got a ticket and I'm really upset at myself because the ticket is going to cost like $300 and then my insurance rates are going to go up and I can't afford that kind of thing right now or something like that. Well, if I'm upset about that, it's going to make it hard to go to sleep. So I'm going to tap on, even though I feel like an idiot for getting that traffic ticket and it's going to be really expensive and cost me a lot of money, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself 3 times and then feel like an idiot for getting that traffic ticket. It's cost so much money, blah, blah. And anyway, I just keep tapping until my upset about that drops all the way down, or at least far down, and I can relax and go to sleep. Now, if it's an ongoing thing in your life, it may not be that simple because it may be a situation that you're in that's going to span months ahead of you, right? But you can still let it go for the moment. So you can still do the same kind of thing. Like there's this situation coming up, I got this court case or whatever, and it's like it's stressing me out. So you can tap on that. Even though I have this court case, I don't know how it's going to go, and I'm really scared it's going to go badly. I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself. You do some tapping on it. Now, of course, it's still hanging over your head, right? But what you can say after you do a bunch of tapping and bring down your level of distress or agitation, at least fairly far down, you can then start saying some things about, I'm going to put it on the shelf and leave it for tomorrow. I will do something about it tomorrow, or I'm going to have trust or faith that I'll figure out what to do with this thing ultimately, stuff like that. So this idea of sort of setting it on the shelf, setting it to the side so that I can relax for now. So that's the other kind of thing you can do if it's kind of a more long-term chronic situation in your life that's unresolved. Now, other situation is that, you're getting to be bedtime and you check in with yourself and you go, there's nothing really bothering me right now. And then you lay down and you find that, all right, there's nothing emotionally upsetting, but as I try and go to sleep, I find my mind kind of racing. Like I seem to be going through this sort of repeating thoughts about a certain thing. It's not necessarily an upsetting thing. It could be a good idea that I have, or it could be this conversation I'm wanting to have with somebody. And I keep kind of cycling through this in my mind. Right? You notice that you're kind of thinking about the same thing over and over again. When you experience that, a good thing to do is to get up and just quickly write it down. Because one of the things that's keeping you awake is there's a part of you that's afraid that if you go to sleep, you're going to forget the good idea or forget this, thing you're going to talk about with the other person. And that's actually highly likely to happen. No matter how good your idea is, if you just go straight to sleep without writing down, you could very easily forget it. That's happened to me many times. So anyway, you just get up and write it down. And once you've written it down, it's like, I can relax. And then you'll find you can go to sleep. Now there, you didn't even need to use an EFT, right? It was just a matter of getting this stuff down on paper and then you're all set. But then the other situation is there doesn't seem to be anything going on. You're not upset, agitated, emotionally about anything. You don't have these looping thoughts that are keeping you awake. You're just lying there, and for some reason, you're just like, lying there, and just all of a sudden it's like, I just can't fall asleep, right? So here's what we can do, this very interesting way of doing some tapping that doesn't involve physically tapping. Because one of the problems of trying to use EFT in that particular situation is that, here I am laying there trying to relax and go to sleep, and the physical act of tapping involves a lot of movement, and the movement is going to wake me up, right? So we don't want to do that. But there's this sort of creative way of doing what you can think of as virtual tapping or imaginary tapping. based on something from Gary Craig, the founder of EFT. He talked about doing imaginary tapping. And then this woman named Patricia Carrington, EFT practitioner, used imaginary tapping to help fall asleep. So that's the thing I'm going to be sharing with you, Patricia Carrington's method of using Gary Craig's virtual tapping. So the way it works is that EFT is an energy-based technique anyway. Tapping is inputting energy into these points by the physical percussion of our fingers. Well, our thoughts are energy too. So if you imagine you're tapping on a point, you are impacting that point. All right, so you don't have to physically tap on it. You can just imagine that you're tapping on it. And in fact, lots of times when I'm lying in bed doing this imaginary tapping process, I kind of sense this thing happening at each point that I'm focusing on. So what you do is you use the phrase, I can't fall asleep. Or it could just be, I can't sleep, or I can't go to sleep. Any of those variations is fine, whatever you like. And so you start by imagining that you're tapping on your cry-shot point. Only just remember, you're imagining it, not actually doing it. So you're imagining this, going, even though I can't fall asleep, I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself 3 times as you're imagining it. And then, once you've finished that, you then just say the phrase in your mind and imagine tapping on each point as you do it. So I'm imagining I'm tapping on the top of my head, so I'm imagining it, I can't fall asleep. Now, I tend to do it at a slow pace. Now, I'll do it just long enough so I can kind of sense something happening there. You don't necessarily have to do that, but I like doing that. And then the next point, which is here, right? I can't fall asleep. I can't fall asleep. I can't fall asleep. So you're just imagining this tapping and saying the phrase in your mind at each point. What you'll find is there's a good chance that after only like around 3 rounds of tapping, that you will go to sleep. Very cool. Now, the other situation we're going to talk about is a time where you do fall asleep, no problem, and then somewhere in the middle of the night, right, say 2 or 3 a.m., you find yourself awake, and then for the life of you, cannot go back to sleep. I know a lot of people will be up for a couple hours before they can finally go back to sleep, which is miserable. So what do you do there? Well, again, it depends on what you're experiencing as you wake up. Sometimes when you wake up, you notice that you're emotionally agitated. So even though you weren't aware of it when you went to sleep, something kind of processed within you while you're asleep, and you got in touch with something upsetting, and now you're awake and agitated. Well, in that case, you want to sit up and tap on the thing that's upsetting you, just like in the first example we started with. Okay, so you're going to tap on that thing until you can bring it down until it's either gone or a very low number, and then you'll find you should be able to go back to sleep no problem. And if you're having trouble, you can do that imaginary tapping again to do the final bit of going back to sleep. Sometimes it'll be like the second case I talked about, where you wake up again looping on something in your mind, and again just want to just write it down. Right, so it doesn't need tapping, or you might use this imaginary tapping to fall back asleep. Or it might be that you wake up and you're going, for some reason I'm awake. I'm not agitated. There's nothing looping in my head. I'm fine, but I just don't feel that sleepy or something. I just can't seem to fall back asleep. That imaginary tapping may be sufficient to do that. So I would start by doing that, just doing the imaginary tapping, see if that'll help you get back to sleep. If it doesn't, then what I recommend is, again, you sit up and you do the real tapping. Because lots of times there's something you're not aware of, and if you this is more effective. So you just go up and go, even though I'm having a hard time going to sleep, because as you do that, you may notice that you're upset at yourself for having a hard time going to sleep, or you might be going, I'm afraid I won't be able to get to fall back asleep, or there's other stuff that's going on that's really helpful if you sit up and tap on it. So as you're doing a few rounds, just noticing what you're feeling and tapping on it, like, oh God, this keeps happening to me. I'm afraid I'll be up for 2 hours again. I'm upset at myself. Why do I have this problem? It's so frustrating. As you keep tapping, after a while, you start going, it's just like, I'm getting really sleepy. And then go back to sleep. All right, so these are different ways that you can use to help yourself fall asleep or get back to sleep if you wake up. And I think you'll find it very helpful. If you did find this video helpful, it would really help me if you could let me know by clicking on the like button. I also have a free ebook called Change Your Beliefs, Change Your Life with the Magic of EFT that you can get at my website at eft-alive.com. It comes with this newsletter called Tapping Tips for Your Success, where I have these short articles or videos like this one that has these useful things you can do to help enhance your life. And you can get both of those at my website just using the link in the description below, or just going to eft-alive.com. So thanks for joining me, and remember, keep tapping.